Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Oregon Board of Education regular meeting of November 19th. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Moment of silence this evening is for Linda Hagedorn, who was a Clay teacher, Michael Briones, who was a boiler operator here at Clay for a long time, and Linda Doyle, who was a cook and then became a custodian. So let's stand for the pledge, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please, Mrs. Ruth?
Certainly. Mr. Eversman.
Here.
Mrs. Molnar.
Here.
Mr. Savick.
Here.
And Mr. Zavisky.
Here.
Please silence all personal electronic devices during the meeting. We need a motion to adopt the agenda as written, please.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Savick.
Yes.
Mr. Eversman.
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
And Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. And Fassett Junior High School, you are on.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Gibson, one of the Student Council faculty advisors, along with Mel Williams, and we've brought 4 of our students with us tonight to give you some highlights of what's been happening and what's to come for the rest of the semester here at Bassett. We have 2 7th graders and 2 8th graders. We're going to start with Elena Simon and then Zoe Buckman, and then 8th graders May Will and Lucy Velez.
Thank you for allowing our Student Council to speak tonight at the Board of Education meeting. We had a great start to the school year. So far, we have done 2 Spirit Weeks. One was called Start with Hello Week, and the other was Red Ribbon Week. Start with Hello Week was sponsored by the Sandy Hook Promise. During the week, we had different activities where we encouraged students to promote kindness and being an upstander, not a bystander. Red Ribbon Week also promotes anti-drug use. Our school clubs have also started. We have Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Junior Model UN, Fitness Club, Chess Club, and Art Club. The Art Club recently took a field trip to the Toledo Art Museum. 7th grade students also took a field trip to the Toledo Walleye hockey game, and 8th grade will soon travel there. On to sports. This year we hosted our annual Volley for a Cure. This is when the volleyball players and the teachers face each other, and students may come and watch, paying a small fee. There are also concessions. The small fee and money for concessions were donated to the Susan G. Komen of Northwest Ohio and Cancer Connections of Northwest Ohio. This year, we raised $1,700 to donate to these foundations. Once again, the teachers pulled out a win. Lastly, our sports team have had very successful seasons. Our 7th grade football team earned the 2nd place trophy in the NLL. 8th grade football was also successful, finishing in 3rd in the NLL. Also, the 7th grade volleyball team won 1st in their league. The cross country did amazing as well. Every month, we have Student of the Month assemblies, where the 7th and 8th grade teachers choose one student to compliment them for that month's topic. At the end of the month, the students are called to the auditorium by their house color. Ms. Prestos, the 7th grade social studies teacher, calls out the teacher and student that they picked, and an 8th grade teacher does the same for those students. The student heads down to the stage to get a certificate and a piece of candy. When everyone is called, they take a picture in front of the main office and post it to the Fassett Junior High sites. So far, the months of August and September were about having a positive attitude to start the new school year, and October was about having a positive R factor, which means having a positive response. This month's topic is to adjust and adapt. The students also had the opportunity to vote for the Teacher of the Month. The students got an email from Mrs. Kissling
the Spirit Club advisor about which teacher they believe has shown that month's topic. In the form, the students list why that teacher should be the teacher of the month, and also had to list a specific time the teacher showed it. This last month's teacher of the month were the 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Porter, and the 7th grade teacher, Mrs. Davis. On Halloween, we had our annual Monster Mash. The students would start the day with amazing costumes. When they went to first period, the teacher sent down the person with the best costume for a costume contest. The first place winners of the costume contest were Aubrey Bescove and Izzy Shimon as Groot and Vector from Despicable Me. When you went to math, you got to go up against the other math classrooms in an Alex competition. Mr. Anderson's class dominated the other math classes. When you got to language arts, you took a spelling test for our spelling bee in December. The last 2 hours of the day, you got to choose to go to a dance in the cafeteria, scary science projects, pumpkin decorating, movies, a coloring contest, or a game room. Everyone had a blast. Hello. Our 8th grade band students had the exciting opportunity to join the high school marching band on the clay field this October. They enjoyed performing the clay fight song during the halftime. At Facet, students belong to different houses and take part in activities to earn points for their houses. Last quarter, the Orange House earned the most points and was rewarded with special treats and time to earn the time on their electronic devices. The points are earned by participating in Spirit Days and by collecting and submitting high five cards, which are rewarded for being respectful, responsible, and ready. Every other Friday, an Eagle of the Week is randomly chosen from the students who have turned in their high five cards. These students receive a special treat, and when the weather is nice, they get to have the opportunity to eat lunch with a friend in the newly refurbished courtyard.
As we go into second quarter, we have started our yearbook cover contest where students will participate by choice to give a creative idea for our front and back cover of our Facet yearbook. Mrs. Johnson and the student yearbook staff will choose 2 entries. One will be used to the front cover and the other on the back of the yearbook. Coming up next month, we are holding our 2024 Facet Spelling Bee. 7th and 8th grade students have the option to participate in the spelling bee after passing the qualifying spelling test. Also in December, we are holding our holiday concerts for 7th and 8th grade band and choir. The band concert is on Tuesday, December 10th at 6 p.m. and the choir concert is on Wednesday, December 11th at 6 p.m. Finally, in the month of December, the Student Council will be collecting canned foods and children's toys in conjunction of the Oregon Health and Welfare Organization. We will be collecting food and toys from November 20th through December 10th. Students will have the opportunity to earn house points during this donation drive. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share with the fun and exciting things happening at Facet Junior High. Go Eagles.
Well, thank you. That was wonderful. Very impressive, ladies. Thank you.
That was polished. That's very good.
We would like it, so pass it like.
Facet wasn't even in the
So you were an Eagle all the way through.
elementary, junior high, and high school.
Okay.
And I did share with them that they could leave actually. So.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Very nice.
And public participation, do you have any cards?
I have nothing.
Me neither. This meeting is being audio taped and will be available on the district website. Our equestrian team this evening, through a little mix-up, is not going to be here. We hope maybe they'll be here next month. It's just a tiny mix-up, but it'll be fine. So we go right to the treasurer's report. Mrs. Fripp.
All right, thank you very much. This is our annual, one of the 2 annual updates of the 5-year forecast. You have 3 packets in your, 3 handouts in your packet. I said it backwards. One is the actual forecast. The other are my notes, which will have the overview and some of the assumptions. And then I have this little, I'm not going to do the PowerPoint tonight. I can put it up on the website if necessary. But there's some things I wanted us to discuss that are very important that are going to affect us moving forward. So overall, the forecast is actually fairly positive in the sense that we do not have a negative cash balance until the final year, which is fiscal year 28-29. Now, there are no raises in this, just steps, but the reality is that a forecast is just a trend. And so those are the trends we have right now. I always put the prior 5-year trends, and you can see how close. Last year is the first year our revenues, we outspent our revenues. So we were currently spending more than we're taking in. We're in a negative cash position, which is always not the best place to be, but we have very strong cash balances. And just a real quick update, you can see at the end of each, for the general fund, at the end of each year of our forecast, we're positive until fiscal year 29, and that's only 28. I don't mean only, because you can't go beyond 0, but it's 28 days in arrears. Some of the assumptions, moving through the assumptions on here, because we don't have our valuations from Lucas County yet, which I don't know if I've had that before, but I don't, it's okay. So I use 30% increase for residential ag, and then of course you have to roll back the millage, and then a 10% increase for commercial valuations. So that is the increases that are built into the real estate taxes. Public utility, basically very conservative, 1% across the board. That doesn't really get affected by the same valuations as public utility, is very different. Foundation, the calculations were based on ODE calculations, and then I used the Forecast 5 programming. Restricted funding's flat. The one thing that if you flip to the third page of the actual forecast, you can see the 5 years before and the 5 years after the actual revenue analysis. And property tax allocations, I know I've mentioned this till we're blue in the face, but we originally back in 2007 were receiving, 2008, we were receiving $7 million in the whole harmless tangible personal property taxes. And now this next year we have $1 million coming in. Next year it'll be $500,000 and then it's gone. So those are the hold harmless monies that we were being, we're always kind of running in place on a treadmill because we keep losing this money as we move forward. And the fair school funding helped, but we're still losing that. Homestead and rollback, they were held fairly steady, and you can see the other operating. On the other operating income, the second yellow highlight at the bottom is the payments in lieu for the first natural gas plant. Those were increased for the last, it's a 15-year payout. The last 5 years starts in fiscal year 27-28, so that has increased there. And above on the, I don't mean to beat you to death with the same information, but the open enrollment money, you can see we used to get it. The fair school funding eliminated that, so that's what that is highlighting. That'll go away in a few years. I just wanted to make sure it's still in our minds. All in all, overall revenue, if you take a look, is actually pretty flat. I mean, over the 5-year period, it's about 0.5%, and I can explain that a little bit better in some of the other information. Salaries and wages, I use the current staff estimates, obviously, for fiscal year 24-25. This is a planning tool, so to start with, I simply put the step amounts in. All steps and advancements cost our district about 2%. I have not put any we are getting into negotiations, and we can discuss scenarios based on what we wish to negotiate. But in this forecast, it's just the steps moving forward throughout the entire negotiation. That works for fringe benefits, STRS, SCRS, those go up the 2% as well. Medical insurance, the first year is assuming, for next year is assuming a 10% increase, and then 5% after that. Dental 6 and vision. And you can see the breakout. The majority of our fringe benefits are insurance, dental, vision, and then the next largest is our retirement. The purchase services, that's at 7% the first year, and then bumped up to account for encumbrances, and then it's at 5%. And those items are fairly flat. Supplies 5%, and capital is pretty flat. I just want to highlight, we will review this again and update once we get valuation updates, because that is big deal. There are no potential funding that's going on in our community. None of it has been included. You do not include it until you see it. That's just Budget 101, until you taste the money. The second natural gas plant is not in here. So obviously our forecast is based on the trends, based on what we know at that date. The thing I want us to be aware of, because the Fair School funding formula, we've been kind of sheltered. We've had nice increases because it's been a 6-year formula. The first 2 years were funded. We got a nice increase for the third and fourth year. We have absolutely no idea what we're going to be getting from the state. We want to assume they're going to continue to fund it and phase it in. Yeah, I want to assume that, and that's, you know, I have no idea. The thing that we need to understand, and it's on the last 2 pages of I've done a little PowerPoint, the valuations versus effective millage. Now you guys probably all know this, and I only use 2 points in time because every 3 years there's either a reappraisal or a revaluation. Obviously 24 is a revaluation, that's what I'm waiting on. Back in 2018, we had a reappraisal. The light green are the valuations go up. The dark green, the effective millage goes down. So the only increase we get is inside millage. And when I was running the calcs, we basically say for this time, every single one of them, it was like that the valuations say it went up 30%. The millage rolled back about 69% of that. So I used 21% rollback. I mean, every single one of these rolled back that much, okay? Yes, we get growth on inside millage. The part that, and you can see the same thing happened with the 2021 valuation, most of the time we're fairly flat, in all honesty. We're, you know, very modest increases, modest rollback, very flat. Because we haven't had, I mean, maybe this will change. Everything's subject to change. We haven't had huge amounts of residential growth. But that could happen, you know, that's what we're headed towards, I hope. Now, what we haven't talked about much because we've been getting this funding in our state formula, new funding formula, is that the state aid is actually, through the calculations, could actually go down because the state formula is still a public and a local and state shared responsibility. And we have, with the 30% potential increases in valuation, which is unprecedented, by the way, absolutely unprecedented. But, you know, it was unprecedented for us to lose the amount of valuation we learned a little loss back in 2008 and 21. They've never had that happen in our state, or just rolled that far back. But this is unprecedented increases, and what that does is it will increase the local capacity or the local share. It's going to be 60, they use 60% of your valuation compared to everybody else in the state, and then 20% of the federal AGI in your community, and 20% of your federal median income, okay? But the bottom line is, this could potentially bring our valuation, our state aid down, which is what's in here, because that is what the formula with Forecast 5, calculated. So I didn't want to, you know, everybody wonder why is that happening. And the weird thing that there's several things that we need to address in the Fair School funding formula. At least it's a formula. This isn't bashing it. It's just concerns for the future. The guarantee is all the way back to fiscal year 21. So in the past, it would be like the prior year. So our guarantee is like 12.4 million, okay? So as we go down, we could actually go down that low. Hopefully that'll be changed. Hopefully I'm just, this is all just, we don't know till July, so I don't want to be gloom and doom. That's not the point. The point is that when you're looking at your foundation, you're like, why is that going down? It's because there's been such an unprecedented increase in valuations, and that then reduces the state share, okay? You want to believe it reduces the state share across the state equally? It never does. So I hope I didn't confuse it, but that's the whole point of this, so that we keep that in our, we used to talk about that all the time on the old formula. But because we've been getting such nice increases, we really haven't talked about it. And this is the first time with this huge increase in valuation that it could cause a problem. So I just want you aware of it. This doesn't mean, you know, it's still a decent formula. Decent forecast in the sense that we have strong cash balances. This is not, you know, we are negative cash, but we're strong cash balances, and there's a lot of excitement in the community. So we have a lot to look forward to. Another, and this is a cause of celebration, at least in our offices, all ESSER funds have been spent. All the final expenditure reports have been done. So that's $7 million we spent since, you know, that helped our general fund, took the stress off our community for a period of time. So it's all done and all spent and all signed, sealed, and delivered. The safety grant funding, which availability is gone was gone as of 9/30/2024, has been spent. There are some transfers on the agenda, which you had in front of you, and those are to take some expenditures. When we were tracing all the ESSER safety, there were some safety grant stuff that ended up in general fund or PI. We need to get that out of there, get it the safety grant, so that's what the transfers are, but that money has been spent. GAC compilation, all work papers are sent, and Julie and the group should be filing shortly. I believe it's due November 27th, so I don't know, they haven't been calling me, so I think they're pretty close to having it done. Audit I believe audit's complete, but I'll hear back once the compilation's been filed. The permanent appropriation tonight, the only adjustment is to be in line with the updated 5-year. And as I think I've beat you to death, because we don't have the valuations, we will want to have a finance committee once we get the final valuations and we get, you know, every little bit of information creates a better forecast. So that's the plan. So unless there are questions, that is my report tonight. And thank you.
I know you and your counterparts are begging to get this information. Do we have any idea, or have they given any indication when these numbers might be available?
I have been promised, I don't want to state the name, that the minute it comes out, we will get the data. There, of course, they got it to the state late, because now they're waiting on the state to certify and get it back. I have nothing. I know that, I think one treasurer was saying they wouldn't even respond to the phone calls. I haven't gotten that yet. I've just been like every other week, like, you know, every week, like, hey, you know, I haven't, you know, gotten the dead phone call yet. I honestly don't know. I can't believe it won't be end of the month, beginning December. I mean, we have to have the effective millage rates. We usually get those in January. That's when I've gotten them in the past. And so it has to be, yeah. I wish I had an answer, Dan. I'm sorry. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous.
It's interesting that in Lucas County, we don't have this information, but in Cuyahoga County, where this exact same happened, they had it this summer. Yeah, so it's just, I'm not sure exactly why that's the case, but that's the case in you know, Lucas County. So it's, all districts are having the same issue of trying to get information, trying to do an accurate 5-year forecast, but unfortunately we're in this situation where we have to wait until the auditor, Lucas County auditor, provides that information with us, you know, to us. I'll mention one other thing too is, you know, as you look at the legislation, there are several pieces of legislation out there right now about reducing property taxes. Yeah. And speaking with the legislator this morning, it was very clear that that's their primary agenda for this next budget that will be approved sometime probably, you know, in June of this next year. And also I'll call it the barn doors getting wider for vouchers in this upcoming budget. We've already been told that. It's just a matter of how much more. And, you know, the money that goes to private charters now is directly funded to them versus going through us, which is, I'm sure, Jane is very thankful for as far as that process. But ultimately, you know, when you look at that, it's a funding source that, you know, potentially could have been coming to public school districts. It's now going to, you know, to our private and charter schools. And I know there's some legislators that are concerned about, you know, not just on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side as well, as far as how this money is being used when you're getting close to $1 billion per year and no restrictions on how that money is spent, no auditing on how that money is spent. You know, they could go buy a car for somebody and nobody would even know, because there's absolutely no auditing of that money, whereas we got to go through a yearly audit. So there's definitely some concerns, and how is that money being spent? Is it truly being spent on kids and educating those kids? So we'll see where all that goes, but I'm more concerned about the real estate and how that could have a dramatic effect on the money coming into the school district in the future.
The one thing I did hear that was almost hopeful at OSBA, I don't know, sometimes, I don't want to be too hopeful, but there was one comment that they might increase homestead and rollback, because that would be taxpayer relief without hurting schools. But you know, with the way the legislature, I wouldn't count on that, but there's all kinds of things going on.
Yeah, today there was
mentioned.
this discussion about lowering the floor maybe to 16 mils from 20 mils. Also, school districts, if there was going to be an increase off the floor, it would be possibly matching, you know, some generalized increases, maybe up to 4% per year. So it just depends on how it all works. They understand that, you know, we're a big beneficiary of real estate taxes. And I'll just end with the fact that I shared with them today that, you know, we spend, in some cases, 2 to 3 times to incarcerate somebody versus what we spend to educate them in the state of Ohio. And, you know, from state monies going into that. So it's a concern that I've always had and shared with them, but it doesn't seem to be going too far. As we continue to say, we've got a fair school funding plan, but it's not fully funded. We also talked about the large increase in special education costs across the state, and that's nowhere near funded. And a recent report came out saying basically it's on average about $40,000 more than what the average cost to educate a student is per special education student in the state of Ohio. And it's nowhere near funded correctly. So something's got to give there as well. But we'll see where all that goes in this next budget moving forward.
So I need a motion to accept the treasurer's report, please.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Roll call.
Mr. Zavisky,
Yes.
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Eversman,
Yes.
and Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. I have nothing for an executive session. Does anyone else? Okay. Consent agenda. Are there any items that members of the board wish to pull from the regular meeting consent agenda? Hearing none, we need a motion to vote on the consent agenda items.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Eversman,
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky,
Yes.
and Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. And sad to see 3 great teachers are retiring.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, on to new business. We need a motion to accept the following donations. The Directions Credit Union donated school supplies with a value of $200 to Star Elementary. May I have a motion, please?
So moved with gratitude.
And second,
Second.
discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Mr. Eversman,
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky,
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. Item B, a memorandum of understanding. A motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Board of Education of the School District of the City of Oregon and the Oregon City Federation of Teachers, Local 1080, American Federation of Teachers, AFL-CIO, to make additions and modifications to the current collective bargaining agreement, XXX or 30, supplemental positions, Section J, to add a wrestling assistant coach. I have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky?
Yes.
And Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. Item C of varsity sport. We need a motion for the approval of a girls wrestling as a varsity sport at Clay High School. The Oregon Schools Board of Education would like to officially recognize girls wrestling as a varsity sport at Clay High School. May I have a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. Item D, the calendar. We need an approval for the 25-26 school calendar. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Would you like to address that at all?
I'd just like to thank the certified union. I know as a part of their negotiated agreement, we had to work together to come to an agreement on a calendar. I'd also like to thank some of the administrators who participated in that process. And we're at the point of approving this one. Hopefully we'll have another one sometime soon for the 26-27 school year.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky?
Yes.
And Mr. Eversman.
Yes.
Item E, Clay High School graduation venue. We need a motion to enter into an agreement with SMG and Clay High School for the use of the Glass City Center for graduation not to exceed $15,000. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes. Item F, we need a motion to approve the following overnight trip. Eisenhower Intermediate School, January 27th through 31st to Camp Machindo for the 6th grade students. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes.
And Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
Item G, the OSBA Policy Service. We need a motion to renew the agreement with OSBA to provide web-based policy service at a cost of $1,950 for the year. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? I'll second. Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
And Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
Disposal of materials. We need a motion to dispose of 710 manuals and student materials items. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Eversman?
Yes.
Mr. Savick?
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes.
And Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
And item I, the items listed on the October 15th agenda for disposal have been disposed of in accordance with board policy. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. That's a lot of materials to dispose of.
And I did read each and every one.
Thank you for that. And I'll be very quick with my comments. So, first I want to thank Dee. Dee's going to be leaving us in September of next year, and thank you for your service to the school district, community, and the students. So thank you. Same with the two staff members that are retiring from the district. We appreciate their service, and they do great things, and we're going to miss them all, including Dee. So thank you. I want to thank the junior high student government speakers. They were phenomenal. What a performance this weekend of the Clay Limelighters. I was very impressed with the singing, the acting. Everything about it was very good, and so congratulations to them and those who were part of putting that on, and the staff involved in that as well. My human capital plan, we're working on, human capital plan is all about what are you doing from the time you employ somebody to the time they leave the district, and all those pieces and parts. And we're in the fine section, so we're talking about everything from the marketing, from the time we post a position to we market it, to the time we hire that position or put it on the agenda for employment. We've had discussions amongst the administrators, initial discussions. We've had some discussions at the board office. And so we're continuing to fine tune that, especially as we get into the January, February hiring season for the following school year. And so know that we're working on that and trying to centralize, but also make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward with best practices. Personnel items, it's been a large focus of my time and energy in the first 3 months of this position, and I'm hoping that kind of subsides a little bit so we can focus on some of the other strategic plan items moving forward. I want to thank the Board of Education for your support of the girls wrestling program. Joe, who brought this to my attention when I first came into the district and said, hey, we've got increasing numbers. It's time for this group to be recognized as a varsity sport, knowing that Findlay, Fremont, and some other NL school districts have this already as a varsity sport. It's a recognized sport through the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and so I thank you for that, and I'm sure those students will be very thankful to hear that, and as they participate in competitions and through the state tournaments and so forth. Month of Gratitude is this month, and just want to say thank you to all the OCS staff, the administration, the Board of Education, for all that we do for our students. It's a month where we give thanks. We celebrate Thanksgiving. There's a lot of great things happening in the school district as I've come in and observed. There's just numerous things every single day that are wonderful for our students and our administration, our staff, the board. We're all a part of that, and I want to thank all of you for that. Just a final thought as we move forward. We talk about 5-year forecast, the financial picture of the district. We've got some potential good news coming into this area as far as businesses and so forth. We all have to work together to make sure these businesses, had this opportunity to come here. And we were looking forward to working with the city, Lucas County as well, to make sure that these businesses want to be here. And we're hopeful that this data center that's been announced will come to fruition. And I agree with Jane that, before we get all excited about it, we got to make sure that shovel goes into the ground. And so we've got a lot of work to do to get to that point, and we're excited about working with the city and the county to do that. Because it could mean some great things, some initial great things for this district moving forward, and this community for that matter, moving forward. So that's all I have for tonight.
Any questions for Dr. Frick? Okay, moving on to old business. We have all of these policies. I am not going to read those either. They were presented for their first reading in October, and they're ready to be adopted. Most are state mandated, some are new, some are revised, some are removed. So I need a motion to adopt these policies.
So moved.
A second? I'll second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Savick.
Yes.
Mrs. Molnar.
Yes.
Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
And Mr. Anderson.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to board discussion of good news report. Coy once again won the greatest escape contest with 99% return of their student fire escape routes. 99% is a whole lot. Hard to beat. All of our schools are in the process of collecting food for the annual food drive for Christmas baskets. Check your newsletters to see what your school's doing. Some are peanut butter and jelly, some are canned goods. There's a variety of things. The Old Newsboys are again offering shoes, boots, and coats to those families in need, so check the newsletters for those details. Veterans Day programs were very successful this year with a lot of our veterans in attendance, and the students did a fantastic job showing their gratitude to our vets. Clay Culinary is selling raffle tickets for a full Thanksgiving dinner, including ham, turkey, 3 sides, and muffins. Proceeds go to the supplies for the food truck face-off in the spring. Tickets are $10. Walking for Oregon residents has resumed at Clay from now through March. The halls are open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 4 to 7. And as Dr. Fitz said, the Linelighters play was absolutely beyond belief and professional this last weekend. Practice for holiday programs are in full swing. Check your school calendar for dates for your school. Toledo Symphony will present a Christmas concert December 11th at 7 in the Clay Auditorium. And thank you to Synovus for sponsoring this community event. Fall break is November 27th through the 29th. And finally, with Thanksgiving approaching, we can be grateful that Oregon City Schools have a lot of amenities. We have a nurse, a counselor, and a resource officer in every one of our schools. 5 out of our 6 schools have therapy or comfort dogs. We expect another one at Star in the spring. Other schools do not have those things. We also have a valuable resource in a social worker. We're just fortunate in Oregon City Schools, and we're grateful for that. Anything from anybody else? Executive session, anyone? Special and regular meetings. I had the regular meeting for December 17th, I believe. That's right. And we probably should have a work session because we have several things to discuss. I'm not sure when you want to do that, December 9th or 10th?
I'll be able to get off, I just need to know now the date. We've hired another individual, so I can
You'll be
pick a date.
okay.
Yeah, so you guys, I'm flexible on either any of those days.
Okay,
So-
Mr. Zanisky,
I say the 9th.
the 9th?
9th?
9th
5
is
o'clock?
good. 5 o'clock.
Yep, I can be there.
Okay. I need a motion,
So moved.
a second,
Second?
discussion, roll call.
Mr. Zavisky.
Yes.
Mr. Eversmith.
Yes.
Mr. Savick.
Yes.
And Mrs. Molnar.
And thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate some faces in the audience.